I still remember the sound of the knock on my door that night. It wasn't loud, it wasn't aggressive, it was slow, hesitant, almost like the person knocking already knew they were about to destroy someone's life. Outside, the city lights of New York were glowing, and the rain was sliding down the glass walls of our penthouse like tears I hadn't cried yet. From the outside, my life looked perfect. I was Sophia Carter, 36 years old, CEO of a billion-dollar tech company. My husband Daniel Carter was my business partner, my CFO, and the man everyone admired. We were featured in magazines, invited to elite events, praised as the power couple who built everything from nothing. People thought we had a fairy tale. But fairy tales don't tell you what happens when the prince lies. That night, I was sitting in my office reading financial reports when my housekeeper Maria walked in quietly. "Ma'am," she said, her voice low, "there is a young woman at the door. She insists on speaking to you. She looks scared." I frowned. "Did she say what she wants?" "She only said, 'It's about your husband.'" My heart skipped, but I forced myself to stay calm. People often tried to blackmail rich families. I assumed it was another scam. "Send her in," I said. A few seconds later, the door opened and she stepped inside. She was young, maybe 22 or 23. She had long, dark hair tied in a loose ponytail, pale skin, and eyes that looked like they had cried for hours. Her clothes were simple, neat, and modest. She didn't look like someone who wanted money. She looked like someone who was terrified. "My name is Emily," she said quietly. I don't know how to say this." "You can sit," I said, pointing to the couch. She sat down but didn't relax. Her hands kept twisting together. "I think your husband is cheating on you with me." The words landed slowly, like poison spreading through my veins. For a few seconds, I didn't react. I just stared at her. "Are you sure you have the right person?" I asked calmly. She nodded and pulled out her phone. "He told me his name is Daniel Carter. He told me he was divorced. He said his ex-wife didn't want to be involved in his life." My chest tightened. She showed me photos. Daniel smiling at a cafe. Daniel holding her hand. Daniel standing in front of an apartment I had never seen. I recognized his watch, his suit, his smile. My husband. I felt a strange coldness inside me. Not anger yet, just a quiet, heavy shock. "How long?" I asked. "Almost a year," she whispered. A year! Every late-night meeting, every sudden trip, every phone call he took outside, everything suddenly made sense. But something else caught my attention. Near Emily's right ear, just under her hairline, was a small, crescent-shaped birthmark. The same one Daniel had. He once told me that mark ran in his family. His father had it, his grandmother had it, and now, Emily. "Where were you born?" I asked slowly. "Chicago," she replied. My fingers tightened on the armrest. Daniel was born in Chicago, too. "And your mother?" I asked. "She raised me alone. She died 2 years ago." My mind started connecting dots I didn't want to connect. "Do you know who your father is?" I asked softly. She shook her head. "My mother never told me. She said he was a man who didn't want us." I felt dizzy. Years ago, Daniel told me about a woman in Chicago who disappeared after he left. He never liked talking about her. He said it was just a short relationship. But what if it wasn't just a relationship? What if it was a child he never knew existed? I looked at Emily's face, her eyes, her nose, her smile. She looked like Daniel. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "He said he's ready to leave you for me. He said he wants to start a new life. He asked me to meet him tomorrow." Tomorrow. My husband was about to choose her over me, and she might be his daughter. I stood there staring at her, realizing I was holding a secret that could destroy 3 lives. And I had a choice. I could tell her the truth now and shatter her, or I could stay silent and watch the truth explode in the most horrifying way. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed beside Daniel, listening to his breathing, watching the faint rise and fall of his chest, and wondering how a man could live two lives so calmly. Every memory felt poisoned. Every laugh, every promise, every time he told me I was the only woman in his life. Around 3 a.m., I got out of bed and went to my office. I searched old documents, photos, emails, anything related to Daniel's past in Chicago. I found an old folder labeled Personal, Archive. Inside was a photo of a young Daniel standing beside a woman with soft eyes and long dark hair. The woman looked exactly like Emily. My hands started shaking. The file date matched Emily's birth year. Daniel had never mentioned her name, but he once told me she disappeared after he moved to New York. He said it was mutual. He said there was no drama. But people lie about the past when the truth is dangerous. By morning, I had made my decision. I would not tell Emily yet. I needed proof, and I needed to see how far Daniel was willing to go. At breakfast, Daniel acted normal. He kissed my forehead, read his emails, and drank coffee like nothing was wrong. "I have a meeting today," he said casually. "It's personal. I'll be late." I looked at him. "Personal meeting?" He smiled. "Yes, something important." I smiled back. "I hope it goes well." He had no idea I knew everything. After he left, I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and followed him. He didn't go to the office. He didn't go to a business district. He drove across the city into a quiet neighborhood with small apartment buildings and local cafes. He stopped in front of a modest apartment complex. My heart started pounding. This was Emily's place. I parked across the street and watched from my car. Emily opened the door wearing a light blue dress. She looked nervous, but her smile was hopeful, like she believed today would change her life. Daniel stepped inside. For a moment, I considered driving away, but I couldn't. I got out of the car and walked toward the building. Every step felt heavy. I stood in front of her apartment door for a long time. I could hear faint voices inside. Then I knocked. The door opened slowly. Emily's eyes widened when she saw me. "Sophia?" Behind her, Daniel froze. The color drained from his face. "Sophia, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I could ask you the same thing," I said calmly, stepping inside. The apartment was small but neat. There were photos of them together on the wall, a picture of Daniel holding her hand at the beach, a picture of them smiling at dinner. A whole life he had hidden from me. "I thought you were meeting investors," I said quietly. He looked down. "I didn't want to hurt you." Emily looked confused. "You told me you were divorced." He didn't answer. I sat down slowly on the couch, crossing my legs, pretending I wasn't falling apart inside. "Emily," I said softly, "can I ask you something?" She nodded. "Do you still have your mother's documents? Birth certificate, old photos?" She hesitated. "Yes. Why?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Sophia, stop. This is between us." "No," I said quietly. "This is bigger than us." I pulled out my phone and opened the old photo from Daniel's archive. I turned the screen toward Emily. "Do you recognize this woman?" Her eyes widened. "That's my mother." Daniel stepped back like he had been slapped. "That photo was taken in Chicago about 24 years ago." Emily whispered, "That's when I was born." Silence filled the room. I looked at Daniel and said, "Daniel, when did you last live in Chicago?" He swallowed. 24 years ago." Emily turned toward him slowly. Her eyes searched his face, her hands shaking. You knew my mother?" He nodded once, slowly. "Were you in a relationship with her?" He hesitated, then whispered, "Yes." Her breathing became fast. "And how old were you when she was pregnant?" He looked at the floor. 24. Emily whispered, "That's my age." The room felt like it was collapsing. I looked at both of them and felt the truth settling like dust after an explosion. And then Emily asked the question that would destroy everything. "Are you my father?" Daniel's knees gave out. He dropped to the floor, covering his face, shaking. "I didn't know," he whispered again and again. "She told me there was no baby. She said she ended it." Emily stepped back, her hands covering her mouth. "I slept with you," she whispered. "I thought you loved me." Her voice cracked. Daniel looked up, tears in his eyes. "I would never have touched you if I knew. Never." She stared at him like a stranger. "You said you wanted to marry me. You said you wanted children with me." He froze, and I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a nightmare that could destroy every life connected to us. And the world still didn't know. For a few seconds, none of us spoke. Emily stood frozen, her face pale, her hands trembling like she was trying to hold on to reality. Daniel was still on the floor, staring at the wall like a man who had just lost his soul. I felt like I was standing in the middle of a silent explosion. Then Daniel's phone started ringing. The sound was loud, sharp, and terrifying. He looked at the screen and froze. It was the chairman of our company. "Answer it," I said quietly. His hands were shaking as he picked up the call. "Hello?" I watched his expression change in real time. Confusion, fear, panic. Yes, I understand," he whispered. "I'll call you back." He hung up and looked at me with eyes full of dread. "They know," he said. My heart dropped. "Know what?" "Someone leaked photos of me and Emily online this morning. The board saw them. Investors are asking questions. Reporters are calling." Emily gasped. "What photos?" He opened his phone and showed us. There they were. Daniel and Emily at the beach, Daniel holding her hand, Daniel kissing her forehead. Thousands of comments, hundreds of shares. People were already speculating. CEO cheats on powerful wife, corporate scandal brewing, mistress revealed. But no one knew the truth. Not yet. Emily covered her mouth. "I didn't post those," she whispered. "I swear." "I know," Daniel said quickly. "You wouldn't." But the damage was already spreading. My phone started buzzing too. Messages from board members, emails from journalists, a call from my assistant asking if everything was okay. I felt like the walls were closing in. Emily sat down slowly, her body shaking. "They think I'm your mistress," she whispered. I looked at her, and they have no idea how much worse the truth is. She looked at me with fear in her eyes. "What happens if they find out?" I didn't answer, because I knew the answer. If the world found out Daniel unknowingly slept with his own daughter, it wouldn't just be a scandal, it would be a global disaster. Our company would collapse, our reputations would be destroyed, Emily's life would be ruined before it even started. Daniel stood up slowly, running his hands through his hair. "This can't get out, ever." He looked at me, desperation in his eyes. "Sophia, we have to control this." "Control what?" I asked coldly. "You slept with your daughter. How do you control that?" He flinched at the word. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I know," I said, "but the world won't care." Emily looked between us. "So what do we do?" Her voice sounded small, like a lost child. I sat down across from her. "We confirm with a DNA test, quietly. No one else knows. Not yet." Daniel nodded quickly. "Yes, we keep this private. We say the photos are fake. We deny everything." I looked at him. "You deny cheating?" He hesitated. "Yes," Emily whispered. "But the photos are real." "They'll believe what we tell them," Daniel said. "People believe powerful people." I stared at him, realizing how terrified he was. Not of what he had done, but of what he would lose. Emily looked down at her hands. "I feel sick," she whispered. "I don't even know who I am anymore." I reached out and touched her arm. "You are not to blame for this." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You hate me, don't you?" I thought about it. I had been betrayed, but she was a victim of something far worse. "I don't hate you," I said quietly. "I hate what he did." Daniel looked away. For the first time, I saw him as a small, broken man instead of the powerful husband I had admired for years. But my sympathy didn't erase the storm coming towards us. A few hours later, I drove home alone. The city looked the same, but my life felt like it had already ended. When I entered the penthouse, my assistant was waiting. "Mrs. Carter, the media is asking for a statement. Investors are nervous. The board wants an emergency meeting tomorrow." I nodded slowly. Tell them I will handle it. I went to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. For years, I built everything with Daniel, the company, the brand, the image. Now I had to decide something even harder than love. Do I protect him, or do I destroy him before he destroys us all? My phone buzzed. It was a message from Emily. I just ordered a DNA test kit. I need to know the truth. I stared at the screen for a long time because I knew the truth would change everything, and I also knew Emily was not as weak as she looked. The next 2 days felt unreal. The world outside was exploding with rumors, but inside our lives, everything was silent and tense, like we were waiting for a bomb to detonate. Daniel barely slept. He stayed in his office most of the time, calling lawyers, PR teams, and board members, trying to control the narrative. He kept saying the same thing. We can fix this. We just need to manage the story. But this was not a story. This was a nightmare. Emily stayed quiet. She didn't call. She didn't message. I didn't know if she was crying, angry, or planning something. Then, on the third evening, she called me. "Can we meet?" she asked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "Of course," I said. "Come to my place." An hour later, she arrived. She looked different. Her eyes were tired, but there was something new in them. Strength, coldness, determination. She sat across from me in my living room, holding a sealed envelope. "It came today," she said quietly. My heart started pounding. "The DNA test?" She nodded. I swallowed. "Do you want Daniel here?" "No," she said quickly. "This is between you and me." She placed the envelope on the table and stared at it for a long time. "I thought I wanted to know, but now that it's here, I'm scared." I didn't say anything. I just waited. Finally, she opened it. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the paper. She stared at the results for a long time without speaking. Then she looked up at me. "It says 99.98% probability. He is my father." The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my chest tighten. Even though I expected it, hearing it confirmed felt like being hit by a truck. Emily started laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was broken, empty, almost dangerous. "So it's true. I slept with my own father." Her voice cracked on the last word. I walked over and sat beside her. "This is not your fault," I said again. "You were lied to. You were manipulated." She nodded slowly, but I could see something dark forming behind her eyes. "What about him?" she asked. "What about him? What happens to him?" I hesitated. "He'll deny it. He'll try to bury it. Powerful men always do." She stared at the DNA report again. "He destroyed my life," she whispered. "He destroyed my identity. He destroyed everything." I didn't know what to say. She folded the paper carefully and placed it back in the envelope. "Does he know yet?" she asked. "No," I said. "I wanted to talk to you first." She nodded slowly. "I want him to know," she said. Her tone was calm, but there was something terrifying in it. "I want him to feel what I'm feeling." I felt a chill run down my spine. "How do you want to tell him?" I asked. She looked at me directly. "I want the world to know." My heart stopped. "Emily, you can't. This will destroy everything. Not just him, you too." She smiled sadly. "I'm already destroyed." She stood up and walked to the window, looking at the city lights. "People already think I'm a mistress, a homewrecker, a gold digger. Let them know the real story. Let them see what kind of man he is." I walked toward her. "Emily, listen to me. The world is cruel. They won't just blame him. They will blame you. They will turn this into a joke, a meme, a scandal. You will never escape it." She turned around slowly. "I don't want to escape it. I want to use it." Her words scared me more than her tears ever could. "What do you mean?" She looked at me with a strange, focused expression. "He built his life on lies, his company, his image, his power.
I want to take it all away. I stared at her. You want revenge? She nodded. And I want your help. I didn't answer immediately. Part of me wanted revenge too. He betrayed me. He betrayed her. He destroyed everything. But exposing this would be catastrophic. You don't understand what you're asking, I said slowly. This is not just revenge. This is destruction. She walked closer. He deserves destruction. I looked into her eyes and realized something. Emily was no longer the scared girl who knocked on my door. She was becoming something else, something dangerous, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to stop her.
Emily was still standing near the window when the elevator doors opened. I didn't hear Daniel come in at first. I was too focused on her expression, on the quiet storm behind her eyes. Then I heard his voice. "Sophia, I thought you said you'd be alone tonight." I turned around slowly. Daniel was standing in the doorway, his suit jacket half unbuttoned, his tie loosened. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were sharp. He noticed Emily immediately. "What is she doing here?" he asked, his tone tense. Emily didn't answer. She walked back to the table and sat down, placing the envelope in front of her. "I came to give you something," she said quietly. Daniel frowned. "Give me what?" I felt my heart start to race. I hadn't planned to tell him like this. He walked closer, his eyes landing on the envelope. "What is that?" Emily slid it across the table toward him. He hesitated, then opened it. The moment he saw the paper, his hands started shaking. He read it once, then again. His face turned pale, then gray. "No," he whispered. "This is fake." "It's not," Emily said calmly. He looked at me. "You did this?" "No," I said. "She did." He looked back at the report. 99.98% probability. Parent-child relationship confirmed. His knees almost gave out, but he caught himself on the chair. This can't be happening," he whispered. "This is impossible." Emily stared at him. "You told my mother you didn't want a child," she said. "She told me you didn't want us." He covered his mouth, his eyes wide. "I didn't know you existed," he whispered. "She told me there was no baby." "But there was," Emily said, "and you slept with her." The word hit him like a slap. He looked up at her, and for a moment I thought he might cry. But instead, something else appeared in his eyes. Fear. Not guilt, not remorse. Fear. "Who else knows?" he asked quietly. "Just us," I said. He exhaled slowly. "Good." That single word made my stomach twist. Emily leaned forward. "I want the world to know," she said. "I want everyone to know what you did." Daniel's expression changed instantly. "No, you will not do that." Emily laughed bitterly. "You don't get to control me anymore." He stood up and walked toward her, his voice lowering. "You don't understand what you're talking about. This will destroy you. It will destroy everything. You think people will feel sorry for you? They will mock you. They will call you disgusting. They will call you a mistake." I stood up. "Daniel, stop." He ignored me. "This stays private," he said to Emily. "I will handle it. I will pay you. I will support you. You will disappear from my life." Emily stared at him, shocked. "Pay me?" she whispered. "You think this is about money?" He looked at me. "Sophia, talk to her. You understand how the world works. We can bury this. We must bury this." I looked at him and realized something terrifying. He wasn't ashamed of what he had done. He was only afraid of losing power. Emily stood up slowly. "You ruined my life," she said quietly. "You don't get to bury me." She walked toward the door. "I'm leaving, but I'm not staying silent." Daniel grabbed her arm. "You will stay silent," he said through clenched teeth. I stepped forward. "Let her go." He released her, but his eyes were dark. Emily turned back to him. "You spent months telling me you loved me. You told me you wanted children with me. You were ready to replace your wife with me." He didn't deny it.
Now you want me to disappear like I never existed. You erased my mother. You tried to erase me. You will not erase me again." She walked out. The elevator doors closed behind her. Silence filled the penthouse. Daniel sat down slowly, his hands on his head. "This cannot get out," he whispered. I looked at him. "You're more worried about your reputation than what you did." He looked up at me. "You don't understand. If this gets out, we lose everything. The company, our influence, our lives." "Our lives?" I repeated. "What about her life?" He didn't answer. That night, I didn't sleep, and neither did Daniel. The next morning, my phone exploded. Emily had posted something. Just one sentence. "The truth is coming." No names, no details, but it was enough to shake the internet. Daniel called me immediately. "She's going to destroy us. You have to stop her." I stared at the city outside my window. For the first time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to stop her.
The city looked calm, peaceful, but inside me, everything was burning. Daniel kept calling me. Stop her, convince her, do something. But I didn't move, because a part of me wanted him to fall. He betrayed me. He destroyed a young girl's life. He cared more about power than truth, and now the truth was coming for him. 2 days later, Emily went live. I was sitting in my office when the notification popped up. Her face filled my screen. She looked calm, but her eyes were cold, focused and fearless. Thousands, then millions, then the whole world. "I'm not doing this for attention," she began. "I'm doing this because silence protects monsters." She took a deep breath. "My name is Emily Harper, and the man who pretended to be my lover is my biological father." The internet exploded. She showed the DNA report. She showed old photos of her mother and Daniel. She showed messages where Daniel talked about marriage and children. People watched in shock. Some cried. Some were angry. Some called it fake, but most believed her. Within hours, Daniel was trending worldwide. CEO slept with his own daughter. Corporate empire built on lies. Wife knew and stayed silent? The last headline hit me like a knife. People started digging into my past, my decisions, my silence, and then Emily said something that changed everything. "I didn't know the truth," she continued, "but someone else did. His wife, Sophia Carter, knew before I did. She followed him, she suspected, and she chose to stay silent." My heart stopped. I stared at the screen. "She had the power to stop this," Emily said. "She had the power to tell me, but she didn't. She let it happen." The world turned toward me. Suddenly, I wasn't just the betrayed wife. I was the woman who let it happen. My phone exploded. Messages, calls, threats, questions. "Did you know? Why didn't you tell her? Are you just as guilty?" I felt sick. Daniel called me. "What did you do?" he screamed. "She mentioned you. They think you're part of this." I said nothing. Because Emily wasn't lying. I had known, I had suspected, and I had waited. For proof, for control, for the right moment. But in waiting, I had become part of the crime. Daniel was arrested 2 days later, not just for the scandal, but for unrelated financial crimes that surfaced once people started digging into his past. Our company collapsed within weeks. Investors pulled out. The board removed both of us. The power couple was gone. I watched from my penthouse as reporters camped outside, waiting for me to speak. I didn't. Emily disappeared from social media after the reveal. Some people called her a hero. Some called her a destroyer. Some blamed her for everything. I understood her. Revenge doesn't fix pain. It just spreads it. Months later, I received a letter. No sender name, no return address. Inside was a single page. "You once asked me what I wanted to do with the truth. I wanted him to feel what I felt. But now I understand something. Truth doesn't just destroy monsters. It destroys everyone who stands near them. I hope you find peace. Emily."
I sat there for a long time, staring at the paper. Daniel lost everything, Emily lost everything, and I lost everything too. Not because I cheated, not because I lied, but because I stayed silent. And sometimes silence is the worst betrayal of all.